So with the sourcing let's jump into how to source your next APU. There's a lot of different ways to source, and you're probably thinking, well, yeah, I plug in a part number and I send out a mass RFQs, but au contraire, I have some tips for you to really streamline that process a little bit better, because I think at the end of the day is you care more about results, you care more about lowering turnaround times, lead times, and total cost. And if you're sourced appropriately, you can get that done, but it has to be strategic in nature. So the first step into sourcing is really to prepare for your future removals. And you can use that demand that I showed you and just to get a general outline of what you may be needing. But look into your internal operation. Is when are your APUs scheduled to come off aircraft? What cycle remaining do they have? Or do they have any planned maintenance checks? You know, what removals are you going to need? You really have to think about that before you go to market, before you start sourcing. Is yes, maintenance will tell you, and engineering, and that is not my forte per se, but they'll tell you when you need it. But you should start looking at your future removals before they tell you when you need it, and that becomes pretty important. So look into the data you have now, and this is just a general concept. MTBR, mean time between removals, your ERP system data, your history. Look at all of the data environment that you have available to you. Of course, everybody's talking about data analytics, but the large majority of us don't have that to us right now. So you have to do a little bit of digging, or you can just look at, if you have a large fleet, it becomes a lot harder. But if you have a small to medium-sized fleet, you can look at your total APUs now and how they're operating, is the cycles remaining, and if there is anything needed of them in the near future. So look into the data you have now. And the next step really is, when you are looking into the data, is you don't want to just go out to market and send mass RFQs. I've seen it a number of times where 120 days prior is an operator will say, we need this APU, and they get the biddings, they get all of their biddings back, and they don't make a decision, or they stir up market. They say they're AOG when they're not necessarily AOG. Things happen when you send out mass RFQs. So let's say you send it out to 50. Of those 50, probably a good 5 people can really support you on that APU need. So now you have everybody asking everybody for APUs, and the demand for the APU skyrockets. And what happens when demand skyrockets and supply is low? Prices jack up. So don't send out mass RFQs. I urge you not to do that. And really, when you send out mass RFQs, there's this concept called choice overload. When you have so if you send out 50 RFQs, you have too many choices, and too many choices lead you to regret, overwhelm, anxiety, and making the wrong decision. And a great example is if you send out those 50 RFQs, and let's even say you get 50 quotes back, you're going to price jump to the lowest provider. And really, out of the 50, the lowest price provider won't give you the best quality and the best service, and really they could cost you a lot more money over the long run. So be really strategic in how you send out your RFQs. It's a lot of operators, even aircraft MROs, a lot of operations might disagree with me on this, but I have seen the history, I have seen the data, and a lot of people are starting to cut the RFQ list to the appropriate people. Why? Because they are the ones who generate results. And you don't have to sort through 50 RFQs, which in itself, time is money. So with that, don't send out mass RFQs. And the next step into sourcing is, once you have that initial need, once you know what you need, once you've looked at the data, once you've determined, all right, this is how I'm going to send out my RFQs, is you really want to establish an initial conversation with your trusted APU partner. And it doesn't have to be a specific APU partner. It can be your trusted material provider, whoever that might be to you. Start having a conversation around your 3, 6, 12-month APU needs. if you have those conversations prior to your need, is their operation can begin planning for you. Is if you send out just a general RFQ and you say, I need this APU in 3 days, there's no way, unless they have stock, but not always, there's no way they can best serve you in that regard. Start having that initial conversation way in advance. The next is, to any good key relationship, any good key sourcing strategy, is communication and trust. Let's go back to our initial example of sending out 50 RFQs, and I'm pretty sure you wouldn't do that for an APU. But of those 50, how many of them do you actually have a good communication with, but also a trusting relationship? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. The key to purchasing your next APU is to establishing a great relationship based on trust and communication. If you don't have a good material provider, start building that communication and that trust relationship 3, 6, 9, 12 months prior to you spending a heavy investment on your next APU purchase. The next step is, after you've looked at the environment and you started having those conversations, is now you have to prepare financially. And this is a tricky subject, and we have a lot of, not a lot, maybe a few articles on neverforgetyourwings.com about setting up terms and how to best do that, how to best structure that. But if you have a $300,000 investment coming soon and your finance team hasn't prepared for that, 1, they could be shocked. 2, you're not going to have the cash. 3 is you're going to be in a financial standing where 30, 69 days is going to come due if you have terms with that trusted material partner, and you're going to be late. And once you're late on 300, it might even be more than that, is now your terms are lowered, and it causes tension within that relationship. And it makes it harder on you if you do need future AOGs or you do need a future APU. So you really want to prepare financially. Even have honest conversations to say, guys, we just bought 1 or 2 aircraft. Cash is a little tight, but we have an APU coming 6 months due in 6 months. Let's start discussing financially what we can do. Maybe we can discuss some extra terms, or maybe we can come up with a plan together. Again, that goes back to having that relationship that's based on trust and communication, and that even comes. It's even more important when it comes to your financials, because a lot of times you might not even know your financial standing, but it's really important that you do understand that, because then you can have those honest relationships. And when you have those honest relationships and those honest conversations, is you can really your provider can create immense value for you if they are on the same page as you. So that really goes back to the primary concept of sourcing. It's really important to build that relationship on communication and trust, and also to pre-plan your APU needs. Is don't start buying APUs when you need it. Start buying APUs right before you need it, and that is the critical point.